morning to you, our viewer. This is Kamni TV Breakfast Show that comes to your screen every morning from 07 hours to 09 hours. And we bring you nothing but the best of current affairs, sports, politics, and everything that is happening around. And of course, today on a Friday, we focus on feeding you nothing but the best of what is happening in the business world. This is Business for Breakfast, and I am your host, Prudence Tota. Of course, on this show, I am not alone. I am always joined by a beautiful lady, who's of course my colleague, who's going to introduce herself. My colleague, good morning.
Good morning, Prudence. It's a lovely morning, and I'm glad that we're able to share the set again together. I do know that last week we weren't able to share the show because you were not around, you were unwell. I'm glad that you are here. Like my colleague said, Prudence Tota, this is Camnet for Breakfast Show. On Fridays, every morning, we always look at the business aspect. We feed you nothing but what's happening in the business world. And Prudence, I don't know, how is your Friday going? You know, this is it's an amazing, lovely morning that we always look forward to. But before we go much into details with regards to what we have lined up this morning for you, our viewers, we'll go into the morning boost so that we exercise. You know, it's very, very important to keep fit. So we'll join you on the other side.
Good morning, Cabinet viewers. Welcome to our quick morning show. And I am your presenter, Isaac Matsa. I'm here so that we can do a bit of exercise before you jump on that vehicle and go and do your work. Let's do a warm-up as usual. I'm excited. It's a beautiful morning, a brand new day. You better be positive and do what you know. Let's go. Hamstring, stay at it. Let's do now two each. Let's go. 1, 2, and 1, 2. Stay there. 2, 1. Try it. Tell your habit to join you. Let's do it together. 2 each. 2 each. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 4, 3, 2. Back to step touch. Let's go. 4, 3, 2. Hamstrings. 4, 3, 2. Back to step touch. And 4, 3, 2. Hamstrings. Matching. Let's match. Lift your knees high. Hip, 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 hip. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's do a warm-up. Okay. So that was your warm-up today. And we're going to do something else now. The first thing we're going to do, I'm giving you some squats. Okay, here we go now. Put your feet together. Watch my body posture. Let's go now. 20 at a go. If you can't do 20, please do 10. Okay, let's go. Let's go, mommy, daddy, involve your children. 1, 2, 4, go down. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20. I'm gonna face this direction. Go! More. Okay, 20. Still with squats. Take a break. Relax your legs. Good morning workout, isn't it? Let's go, another 10 now. Watch the space. This is what I do now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try it. 5, 6. Good for your body. 7, 8, 9, 10. So that was 10. That's the second one. In case you had too much of Mshima last night, let's burn all that fat now. Another 10. Ready? Feet together. Open your stance. Go down. Touch the ground. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Push. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 20. Trust me, if you're doing it exactly like me, right now, you can feel pressure on your thighs. 20 more. Remember, the first one we did was 40. This one should be 40 as well. After that, take a shower, jump on that vehicle, your bike, your car, and go for work. Let's go. 20 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Woo! I'm burning fat here. Do it. You thank Camnet later. Last one. Let's go, Team Camnet. Let's show them we can do this. Last 10. After this, you can have your coffee and go for work. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll do 2 for you, 1 for you, 2 for your wife, 3 for your children, for my producer, 1. Great. That was 40. So you did 2 types of squats. Remember? There was the skill squat and the sumo squat. Now, forget about the names. What's important is for you to do the workout. Right now, I can't even talk properly because I'm working out. I'm burning fats, I'm burning calories, and that's what you ought to do. Every morning, try this. If you miss it in the morning, try to do it in the evening. Remember where I started from? Let's march. Go! And back. We are winding down now. Thank you so much for tuning in to our breakfast show. Please make sure you need to exercise always because you only have one body to carry out your assignment. And I am signing out. I'm Isaac Matsa, and see you.
Of course, that's a morning boost for you, just something just to keep you fit as you get prepared and ready for the day. Prudence Chota, you know what?
Yes, Miriam.
I should admit that I was just one of those persons who would just wake up in the morning without exercising, get myself ready. But you know, eventually the body gets tired. So it's very important that you always keep fit and ensure that you get ready as you run your business of the day.
Yeah, it is very important, Miriam, and that's one factor that we mostly ignore, thinking, okay, because I've woken up today, I am fine, I am set to go, I am good to do this, I am, of course, set to do this. But what we don't know is sometimes, Miriam, I've heard before a sudden death where someone was just okay and suddenly they are no longer with you, but and people keep wondering, saying, but this is a person who was just okay, they didn't complain about anything. So you might not know what might be happening to your body. It might have not communicated, but always remember that it is important to exercise, to keep fit, to ensure that your body is fit and, of course, in shape. That's why we play you that morning boost every morning to keep you moving, to keep your body boosted so that you can prepare for the day and for the future to come. And of course, today is business for breakfast. But before we get to discuss what's on the business segment today, we are going to look at our money market so that we understand how is it that our currency is performing against other major convertibles. So as by yesterday, the close of business Thursday, the kwacha against the British pound was buying at 25 kwacha 01 ngwe and selling at 25 kwacha 50 ngwe. The United States dollars was buying at 18 kwacha 48 ngwe and selling at 18 kwacha 84 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the euro was buying at 18 kwacha 89 ngwe and selling at 19 kwacha 26 ngwe, and the Zambian kwacha against the South African rand was buying at 1 kwacha 22 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 24 ngwe. There you have it. That is how our local currency is performing against other major convertibles. In case you're a business person and you're planning to travel to South Africa, you're planning to travel to the United States of America, you're planning to travel to Europe, you need to know how is it that your kwacha is performing against other major convertibles. And of course, we know that one of the things that the United Party for National Development Administration promised the Zambian people was the fact that when they get into power, we are going to see the kwacha Miriam appreciate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is something that we are looking forward to. But currently, as it stands, it's something that we see it's not happening, you know?
Yeah, it is. At first, when the UPND just got into power, we did see a bit of stabilization in the Zambian kwacha, which even went as low as 16 kwacha and a bit slightly to 15 kwacha, from where it was near August to somewhere 22 kwacha. That's where the Zambian kwacha was trading. But again, we've seen it depreciate and of course slided a bit to 18 kwacha 48 ngwe. This is something, Miriam, that is of great concern, considering also the fact that we've not even yet started repaying our debt, because the Minister of Finance, I always say when I come on this program to say, he did indicate to say the reason why we are seeing the kwacha appreciate is the fact that we are not currently servicing our debt. So this is allowing us to have some dollars in the economy. But the very moment we begin to service our debt, it's more likely that our kwacha will depreciate. And before we can even start doing that, we are seeing our kwacha depreciating. So anyway, we are so hopeful. And we are so hopeful that things will eventually change for the better as we move forward. Anyway, before we go much into details with regards to the topic, we have our topic this morning, which is the role of transparency and accountability for economic development. And we're just going to go into the healthy segment given by Dr. Kalumba Nyangu from the University Teaching Hospital.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Kalumba Nyangu from the University Teaching Hospital, Department of Surgery. I'm a urologist. Today we are going to talk about prostate cancer. So prostate cancer is a cancer that arises from the prostate gland. So what is the prostate gland? The prostate gland is a gland that is found in men, and it produces substances that are responsible for the liquefaction of semen. So prostate cancer arises from the prostate gland. It is one of the most common cancers in men, and worldwide it is the second most common cancer in men, with lung cancer being the most common cancer. So what is the epidemiology of prostate cancer, and what are the risk factors of prostate cancer? So the risk factors of prostate cancer are age greater than 50, black race or being of African descent, age greater than 45, and with a family history of prostate cancer either on the paternal side or from the maternal side, or age greater than 40 with a history of breast cancer in the family, what is called the BRCA1 gene. So how does prostate cancer present? So prostate cancer may present asymptomatically, so that means there could be no symptoms, or it could present with symptoms, that is what we refer to as lower urinary tract symptoms, or it could present with symptoms of metastatic disease, and that will include things such as back pain or what we call acute spinal cord compression if it complicates. So, how do you make a diagnosis of prostate cancer? So, a diagnosis of prostate cancer is made on the basis of PSA and digital rectal exam. So PSA is a substance that is produced by the prostate gland, and in prostate cancer it increases. So a raised PSA will raise a suspicion of prostate cancer, and that, coupled with a digital rectal exam, is also used in the diagnosis of prostate cancer, with a definitive diagnosis of prostate cancer being made on biopsy of the prostate gland. So, in view of this, how is prostate cancer managed, and why is it important to screen for prostate cancer? So, it is important to screen for prostate cancer because in our setting, especially among people of African descent, it is found that by the time they present with prostate cancer, they present with advanced disease and more aggressive disease. So early screening for prostate cancer will prevent the progression to advanced disease, and thus it can be found at an early stage when it is curable. So, how do we treat prostate cancer? So, treatment of prostate cancer is dependent on what we call whether the disease is localized or it's advanced disease. So, you have a classification where you have low risk disease, intermediate risk disease, and high risk disease, where we look at several factors that include the stage of the prostate cancer, what we call the Gleason score. And these are some of the factors we look at when looking at the risk stratification of prostate cancer. So how do you manage? For localized disease, so this means disease that is confined to the prostate and it hasn't spread beyond the prostate gland. This is an opportunity for curative treatment, and in this case, we can use radical prostatectomy, which is a removal of the prostate gland, including the capsule in which the prostate gland is found, or radiotherapy. There is also an option of what we call active surveillance in low-risk disease. That is if the stage of the disease is not advanced. So active surveillance is where you postpone treatment with the intention of treating with disease progression. So this is an option for low-risk disease, that is very early stage disease, and it has found that with active surveillance, people can live even up to 25 years, even with the presence of prostate cancer. So what justifies management of prostate cancer using active surveillance is that you have to weigh the benefits of treatment against the quality of life. So you find that in a low-risk disease, sometimes you postpone treatment for the sake of in order to have a better quality of life for the patient. So for advanced disease or for metastatic disease, that is disease that has spread beyond the prostate, prostate cancer is treated using what we call androgen deprivation therapy. So what this means is that we remove the source of testosterone, or we suppress testosterone production. So this can be either medical management or surgical management. So medical management is where we use drugs in order to suppress the testosterone or to block the points where testosterone binds on the cells. And surgical management is where we actually do castration in order to cut out the source of testosterone. The justification behind this is because prostate cancer thrives on testosterone. So by lowering the testosterone levels, we slow down the progression of prostate cancer. So on that note, what is the take-home message for prostate cancer? So remember that prostate cancer in people of African descent usually takes a more aggressive course, and by the time it's being diagnosed, the disease is advanced. So it is important to screen for prostate cancer if you are of African descent, if you are greater than 50 years of age, if you are greater than 45 years with a family history of prostate cancer, or you are greater than 40 years with a family history of breast cancer. In terms of symptoms, if you notice any change, for example, weak flow of urine, blood in urine, blood in semen, if you notice any of these symptoms, this should alert you to seek the services of a urologist. On that note, I end today's talk. Thank you.
There you have it. That was Dr. Kalumba Nyata from the University Teaching Hospital. And the topic that was being discussed today is prostate cancer. So if you're above the age of 45 and of course 50 and you have a history of cancer in your family, the doctor was advising that ensure that you go and test Miriam for prostate cancer. Yeah,
I love the facts, the aspects, the things that Dr. Nyangu brought out. That's Dr. Nyangu, in case of those who are just joining in when the clip was playing. That was Dr. Kalumba Nyangu from the University Teaching Hospital of Zambia in the Department of Surgery, who was just highlighting on or explaining on prostate cancer. You know, this is February, the month of cancer awareness, so it is very important that especially with women, we go to the clinic, we do some checkups, you know, just to ensure and find out what exactly might be wrong with your body. You might be feeling, okay, I'm feeling this bad, you know what, but go to the clinic, find out, you know, get tested so that you know your current status.
Yeah, and of course, Camnet TV brings you nothing but the best in politics, in health, in economics, in business, in the business environment, in sports, and everything that is happening around. So every morning on this show, we will be bringing you the doctors on air who will be helping discuss a topic of great concern. Like this month, we have Cancer Awareness Month, and that's why you saw Dr. Kalumba Nyangu here on CERT, who was just explaining about that and how you can identify it, how you can be treated, and how it all goes. So every morning on Camnet TV, on the breakfast show, we will be bringing you the doctor who will be discussing a topic of great concern. But in case you've got questions for these doctors, on a Saturday program, actually, the doctors will be live on CERT, where you can call and ask the question that you want to ask, that burning question that you have for the doctors. That's why they are here, to help provide those solutions. So on a Saturday, every morning on the breakfast show, the doctors will be live, and you can phone in and ask some of those questions that you have. I know when you are listening to this clip, of course, you had questions that you would want to be exhausted. So tune in to Camnet TV on Saturday for the breakfast show, and the doctors will be here to discuss some of the issues that were raised in the course of the week. And moving up to now, we are going to zoom into some of the stories that made headline. Of course, yesterday we did see Miriam for the first time in a long time, for lack of a better word, President Edgar Lungu and some of the former ministers and members of the Patriotic Front actually offer solidarity to the former head of state. And a lot of people were asking to say, what is the solidarity for?
Exactly. Anyway, we get to play this clip and just get to hear what the story is all about.
Former Republican President Edgar Lungu's aide, Chisenga Chanda, was arrested and by the police last week. Police confirmed arresting a Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Chanda, for the alleged offense of being an accessory after the fact to a felony, contrary to Section 379(1) and 398 of the Penal Code Act, Cap 87 of the laws of Zambia. It is alleged that Mr. Chanda, on the unknown date between the 1st October 2019 and 4th February 2022, did receive or assist a wanted suspect. Mr. Lungu's Babaman, Shabi Chilekwa, was also arrested.
There's nothing like that. Let's see your back. Chilekwa, let's see your back. Let's go find. You want to let him show his back.
But the PF believes it amounts to maneuvers to get to Mr. Lungu. Shiwangandu constituency Member of Parliament Stephen Kampyongo led other parliamentarians and party officials to provide solidarity to Mr. Lungu.
Having been former Minister of Home Affairs, I would like to see the professionalism in the Zambia Police Service to be seen by the members of the public. We want confidence in our law enforcement agencies. It's scaring us to hear that in the course of their investigations, they are having civilians to interrogate people that they are subjecting to investigations. I think this needs to be dealt with. It has never happened in this country that would get a private individual to be part of the investigations. The
PF members of parliament insist that they are being persecuted.
Discouraged, and whatever thing which is happening in the country today, it is very unnecessary. Very unnecessary. The arrest of the ADC to the former president, that arrest was endangering the security of the former president, and it was very unnecessary for the police to act in the manner they acted. And we want to challenge the police. We are aware that the police arrested some youths in Kabwata, and those youths were assaulted. And the police refused to give the youths the medical reports to access the medical attention to our health facilities.
It must be investigated, and people must, if they are found wanting, they must be brought quickly before the courts of law. I'm grateful that the lawyers for the Patriotic Front, who are acting for the gentleman who's in custody now, have been given an order to issue a writ of habeas corpus, and we're hopeful that the police can comply with that directive of the court and present this individual very quickly before the courts of law. But as we go forward, we just want to make it very clear that for us as Patriotic Front, we will ensure that the declaration that was made by the President at the beginning of his term, that everything is going to happen in accordance with the rule of law, is going to be complied with, regardless of who is involved.
Meanwhile, former Republican President Edgar Lungu has described unfolding events as turbulent.
So you cannot be a leader or a person, even in retirement, without people around you. I'm glad that I have the support of my colleagues from Parliament and from the party in this turbulent time that we are through. Obviously, statements have been made about this and that, but I'm not in a position to talk too much today, but to allow matters settle. As you very well know, my ADC was picked. The matter is sub judice. My Baba Chilekwa has also been incarcerated. Reasons are yet to be known, but suffice to say, all is well that ends well.
Patrick Soko, Kamera TV News in Lusaka.
There you have it. Those were the complaints that were coming from the Patriotic Front camp, and of course they were joined also by the former head of state, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, who was also complaining about the arrest of his Babaman, Mr. Shedi Chilekwa, and of course his ABC. Is it what, Miriam?
ADC.
ADC?
Yeah, ADC.
Yeah. his ADC over the way they've been treated by the police. Of course, the president, the former head of state, did mention to say he does not know the reason why these people are being kept in custody without any charges. But the Patriotic Front have called it a way of getting close to arresting their former party president.
Yeah. But one other thing that Prudence, we also noticed was that, you know, the former head of state has been for quite some time, he has been in the background. You know, he hasn't come out in the public to address even the media or some. So people were really looking forward to him, you know, saying something with regards to this concern. But anyway, we leave it to the law enforcement agency to see how this matter unfolds. Exactly.
Yeah, of course. And right about now, we are also going to play you another clip on the business. Of course, it's a business sector, and the clip basically is with regards to what is happening in the economy. Well, if we see, you know, that Zambia is quick, for example, if we see an increase in the price of fuel, instantly we see it change on the market. But when there is a reduction, there is nothing that really happens in the economy. This also happens to the kwacha Miriam. When the kwacha depreciates, you see a lot of people hike the price of commodity, but when it appreciates, we did see the kwacha appreciate for almost a month and 2 months or so, but we didn't see any slight change in what in the price of goods and commodity. So we are going to play you that clip, even as we get to discuss in detail how is it that we can offer checks and balances to the administration that is in the office.
The prices of commodities in Zambia have remained a cause of concern among citizens, as these have a direct impact on the physical well-being of people. Previous years have seen commodity prices of food items almost double, with a tray of eggs which was selling at 30 kwacha being hiked to 50 kwacha and above. This trend has been a source of worry among stakeholders advocating for good nutrition and the eradication of poverty. They are of the view that apart from compromising on the number of times that families eat, this also compromises on the quality of food eaten, hence raising nutrition concerns. According to the January 2022 Basic Needs Basket by the Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, the cost of living for a family of 5 stands at over 8,000 kwacha per month, beyond the average earning of most Zambians, which stands at 4,000 kwacha, according to the International Labour Organization ILO. The Zambia Consumer Association ZACA has, however, expressed concern that while prices of commodities are adjusted upwards by business owners in response to market changes, the same is not done when there is an improvement in the economy. In an interview, Association Executive Secretary Mr. Juba Sakala notes that there is need for a piece of legislation which will compel business owners to also respond to market prices when there is a positive change.
So if we could have something like a law or an SI which would be compelling other stakeholders to respond to any reduction either of fuel or electricity tariffs. As of now, there isn't to protect the consumer, because the consumer is always on the receiving end. When there is an increase, the other stakeholders will rush to increase, but when there's a decrease, they'll never respond. So consumers do not even feel that there is a reduction or benefit from any reduction that happens either in electricity tariffs or pump price of fuel.
He adds that the association is engaging other stakeholders to ensure that the same is done.
We're trying to work with community rights from Zambia and other stakeholders so that we come up with legislation that we can submit to government, and government can be able to consider it, so that consumers are considered in every decision that is made. I know government does not control businesses, but in this we need consumers to be protected at any decision that is made, because most of the time the decisions are made without consumers being consulted. The issue of bus fares which happened, it was only RATs and bus operators. The consumers weren't invited, and it went ahead. But consumers complained, we wrote to the PS, talk about it, but no response. So we need legislation that will be compelling these people.
The ZACA Executive Secretary knows that if the status quo remains the same, consumers will continue to suffer regardless of improvements in the economy. Zipporah Mchala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Okay, there you have it. That is the ZACA Executive Director, Mr. Juba Sakala, who was speaking to the fact that there is instability in the way things happen on the Zambian economy. You will observe that when there is a price increase in fuel, and of course when the kwacha depreciates, the price of commodities will instantly respond to that. But when there is a reduction, there is no response. So Mr. Sakala was saying there is need for a legislation that is going to compel Miriam, of course, the market to respond to what is happening, like to respond to economic factors in the economy. But of course, one thing that we should also know that we don't usually talk about is the fact that Zambia is a free, open market, where consumers or the producers,
the business owners, decide, you know, they give their own prices.
What really happens? Maybe those are the things we should be talking about, Miriam. Do we need legislation that compels these people to respond to economic factors? But just in case you're joining us, perhaps you want to make a contribution to that, we have opened the phone line. You can call through and contribute. What do you think we need to do as a country? We do see a situation where when economic factors are performing well, it's very difficult for the producers on the market to respond to that. But when it is not performing well, they are quick to respond. Like, for example, when fuel price is hiked tonight, by morning, the price, of course, will go up. But what we see is when there is a reduction, there is nothing that happens. Baby, what would you say we need to do as a country going forward to ensure that what is happening on the market, what is happening in our economy also lowers down, Miriam, to a consumer? Because, you know, the business owners usually, Miriam, don't get affected by the things that happen. Why? Because they decide how they want the price to be. But when it comes to a consumer, yes, when it comes to a consumer, the consumer is the one now who has to bear the consequence of what is happening in the economy. The consumer now is the one who has to pay high transport fees. The consumer now is the one who has to buy that bag of milli bag, 170, that bread at 15 kwacha.
It's now trending from the price of 16 to 15 to 16, somewhere there, you know.
Yes.
And it's with the way the dollar is, you know, behaving, we might see the price of bread, you know, going even up to 20 kwacha, 17 kwacha. Hopefully, we don't want, it's something that we don't want to see. And we pray that as soon as possible, this situation can be addressed.
Yes, of course. Business for breakfast. And we bring you nothing but the best in current affairs, in politics, in sports, in health. And of course, this morning we are discussing business. That's why we are asking, what do you think should be happening on the Zambian economy with regards to the sentiments that happen in our economy when it comes to the depreciation and appreciation of the kwacha, when it comes to fuel hike price, when it comes to a lot of factors, when we have liquidity in our economy, when we have stuff like that. You observe that most of the time the consumer is the one who bears the consequences of what happens. So the guest that we just played, Mr. Sakala, has alluded to the fact that we need legislation that compels the owners of businesses to respond to the sentiments on the market. But in case you're just joining us, what would be your contribution with regards to that topic and, of course, discussion?
In case you have just tuned in, our topic for this morning is the role of transparency and accountability for economic development. So give us your contribution. You know, there's those phone numbers on your screen where you'll be able to call us in, give us your contribution, your comments with regards to this topic. And in case you're just joining us on Facebook, please do send us those messages. We will be able to read your messages through. But right about now, before we go much into details with our topic of this morning, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet Channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just.
Do you have an extra car? Then make yourself extra money. We would like to put that car, yes, that car parked there, to good use to make you extra money on the side just through its service while keeping it safe and secure. Call 0765 02 3883 to register your vehicle with us today. Delpo Services. Service beyond satisfaction.
The role of transparency and accountability for economic development is a topic of discussion today. And of course, we are expecting a guest who's going to help us discuss this topic in detail. But in case you're just joining us, this is Business for Breakfast on a Friday, where we bring you nothing but the best of current affairs. And before we went for a break, we did play a clip from Zaka, where they were calling on a legislation that will compel business owners in the country to respond to the market sentiments. Like, for example, if fuel price goes up, we see instantly the price of fuel being increased, but when it reduces, we don't see anything on the market. That is, of course, with also the kwacha. When the kwacha is depreciating, you see that the business owners will respond to that. But when the kwacha is appreciating, there is no movement. It's silent. It's like the still waters. So we need legislation that are going to compel business owners in the country to respond to the sentiments on the market. This was Zaka Executive Director, Mr. Sakala's proposal. So in case you're just joining us, what would you say with regards to that? But even earlier on the program, we did play a clip from a doctor who was speaking to prostate cancer. And of course, on this program, every morning, we will be playing a segment from the doctors that are going to be informing us about health issues that have to be put into consideration. It's very important for you to know how you are performing health-wise. And some of those questions that you have will be answered on this show. But what is interesting, Miriam, also, is that that program for the doctors is up for grab to the sponsors. So in case you want to sponsor the doctor segment on Camnet TV, you can get in contact with us on the number that are on the screen, and we will be able to respond to that. So if you are an advertising agency, you are a business owner, and you would like to sponsor Doctor on Air on Camnet TV, please ensure that you take up that slot.
Okay, right about now, we're going to play a clip from the Examination Council of Zambia and just see what is happening in the education sector. Before we go back, before we get much into details with our topic of discussion this morning.
The candidates in public schools will be paid for by government directly. And for candidates in grant-aided schools, the government will recover the expenses from the grants that are given to the school and remit them to ECZ directly. So the candidates must be registered without paying anything. The candidates in private schools shall pay the following amounts of examination fees. Grade 7 composite examination, 60 kwacha per candidate. The junior secondary school leaving examination is 160 kwacha. And the school certificate examination or grade 12 examination is 440 kwacha per candidate. Candidates for the grade 9 external and general certificate of education examination are required to pay the following amounts as examination fees. Grade 9 external candidates, they are required to pay 15 kwacha per subject. and 25 kwacha entry fee. The General Certificate of Education examination candidates are required to pay 120 kwacha per subject and 75 kwacha entry fee.
Okay, that's a clip from the Examination Council of Zambia, where they were just alluding to the fact that you know, this is a very, very progressive move, I must say, that government, in terms of adhering to or them performing, alluding to the fact that they will, with their policy of free education, they said they're scrapping off in public school examination fees. This is a very progressive move, I must say. And then they did allude to the fact that those in private schools from grade 7 will be paying 60 kwacha, and those in grade 9 will be paying 160 kwacha, and those in grade 12 will be paying 440 kwacha for their examination fees.
Yeah, of course, Miriam, and of course for those external candidates have also been introduced a fee that you have to pay. When they say external candidate, like for example, you are in grade 9, but you didn't perform well in some subject, and you would like to retake those subjects. For those, you'll be required to pay a particular fee in order. I think it's a 15 kwacha per subject and 25 kwacha entry fee. So we all know that for grant-aided institutions and of course for public institutions, pupils will now not be required to pay anything for their exam. Your child just has to go to school, ensure that you just give them books, buy them uniforms, and everything is set. But for those in private schools, unfortunately, for them, they'll have to pay a particular fee for them to sit for those exams. But Miriam, it's a good thing. We had a lot of
Prudence, before you go much into details with your thought, we have a caller. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
I'm all right. Thank you.
Can you tell us your name and where you're calling us from? Mr. Mlenga from Makeni? Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes,
Sir, could you kindly reduce the volume on your TV set in case you are near to your TV set?
All right, thank you. I said I wanted to contribute about the one commodity that
Okay, please go ahead.
All right. One thing I was realizing at the moment of this is yesterday, the seller of commodities to reduce the price of the hard I think the reason why they reduce, they first reduce from the price of prices when dollar appreciates, dollar appreciates or price appreciates. I think it's as a result of where they say that. You know, they will put them on the period at the price according to the planning, and then they appreciate like the dollar appreciates. You have to finish whatever you know that is the price, the current price you are paying. So that's when they put that the Thank you very much.
All right, so before you go, are you there?
Yes,
but what of fuel? We do see a situation where on the international market, when they mention just overnight that the fuel price has gone up, instantly, even in our country, with the price that already came when it was at that, it also increases. Maybe what is your comment with regards to that?
I feel they have a sense of comparing security. They are businesses where if they hear that the price of fuel increases, they will not even also where they get the price of that. They tell that that's the prices from their also increase. But they have to wake up and increase their before they go into the
Okay,
we lost him before he could even finish
his thoughts. All right, but anyway, he's alluding to the fact that most of the time why businesses do that is you find that where they order these products, when the price goes up instantly, definitely when you go to order the following day, you will discover that the price has gone up, the price has shifted. Maybe that's why the business owners do that. But when there is a reduction, you will notice that they still have old stock which they bought at that price, which has to clear before things can stabilize,
before they can reduce the price.
Yeah, maybe that was his thought. We can hear from you as well. What is your thought with regards to the way businesses respond to sentiments on the Zambian market? When there is an increase in fuel price, instantly we do see fuel price that is in the country that came at the old price increase equally. But when there is a reduction, we see no movement with regards to that. When the Zambian kwacha depreciates, we do see things on the market go up, but when it appreciates, we don't see any movement. Zaka spoke to that, and they suggested that we need a piece of legislation that is going to be compelling businesses to respond to the sentiments in the market. But in case you're joining us, what is your thought with regards to that? What is your contribution? What is your experience? What is it that you want to see happen? If you're a business owner, perhaps, defend your business. We want to hear from you. We've just had someone who just called and they've defended why consumers do that. But please, you can also tell us your experience on this program. That's why we are bringing it to you, so that we can hear what you have to say. But even before that, we did, Miriam, we are discussing the Examination Council of Zambia sentiments made yesterday, where they are saying for those in public schools and grant-headed schools like mission schools that are now identified as those that are going to be on grant-headed, are not going to be paying anything for their examination fees. But for those in private schools and for those doing rewriting some of Chilala, Mr. Michael Chilala, the director for the Examination Council of Zambia yesterday, also mentioned to say, when we look at the number of those who've registered for writing exams, it's currently at around 220,000, something like that, against a target which is about 1 million.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what they target, but we've seen that most of the schools have not done that. So Mr. Chilala was appealing to head teachers, to parents, to ensure that they register their pupils for examinations. There's not going to be any extension, because the reason why that was in the first place is because people used to complain over the fees that they had to pay. But this time it's free. There are no those fees, but we are not seeing people register for the examination. So if you see the gap, Miriam, it's quite huge.
It's quite huge.
And looking at the period that is remaining, we only have about 2 to 3 weeks before it closes. So Mr. Chilala was appealing to head teachers and parents to ensure that they register their kids for examinations. And of course, if you are a parent, please find out from these schools.
Go ahead and register your child.
Yes,
you don't want them to miss this opportunity. This is something that government has put on the table for you free. The only thing you need to do is buy those books for your child, take them to school, and just make sure that they pay attention and do their best at school, because government has put this free education gift for us. I call it a gift.
Yeah, it is, Miriam, it is.
So as we also are looking at transparency and accountability, this government promised us that the UPND administration did promise that once they come into power, we are going to see free education. And this is something that we are seeing. In terms of transparency and accountability, these are something that we should be able to tick. If they do this, we are able to, just see how they are performing and held them accountable with each and every step that they take.
Yeah, of course, when you make a promise to a lady that I'm going to marry you, she'll keep accounting you, checking on you with regards to the promise that you made. Because of course, I'm going old. I need that ring on my finger, Miriam. I need.
By the way, it's a month of love.
Of course. February is a month of love. And of course, we are sharing nothing but the love that we have. And we are talking about offering accountability, checks and balances to the loved ones, in this case, who are the government, who promised us a lot of things, the UPND administration. So the role of transparency and accountability for economic development is a topic of discussion this morning. And we are going to be getting to chew that meat with a guest who's going to join us shortly to discuss this topic. But in case you're just tuning in, what is the role of transparency and accountability for economic development? What is your comment with regards to transparency and accountability. Then also the question that I will throw out to you there is, Miriam, the way accountability is being held against the government that has been in power for 5 months, do you think we are doing enough as maybe opposition political parties, as CSO SANs, non-governmental organizations and stuff like that? Do you think people are offering the checks and balances that the government in office now deserves?
Well, in my honest opinion, Prudence, I would say currently at the moment we have a few institutions and political parties that are offering the quality, transparency and accountability checks and balance to the current administration. But I must say that as we move forward, you know, this thing of politics of blame game and insultive language, you know, and throwing stones, it's something that we don't want to see. We want to see opposition political parties, you know, we want to see SOSANs, you know, these non-governmental organization institutions give critical checks and balance to the current administration, and not just, you know, just say things without, you know, any basis or logical explanation. This is something that we don't want to see.
Yeah, of course. And as a citizen, you equally have a responsibility to offer checks and balances to the government that is currently in office. Remember, that business cannot boom if at all you don't offer checks and balances. That if you are doing Kantemba, we were promised that under the Constituency Development Fund, businesses will be supported. If you don't remind them to say, you did promise that you're going to boost my business, how is it that your business is going to grow? You need resources. You need financing. Are you thinking of starting an aquaculture business?
We did see the CDF funds moved from 1.6 to 25.7 million kwacha. This is a progressive move, I must say. So, you know, in your constituency, see the relevant authority, the area councillors there, the MPs, and then so that, you know, you benefit from the said funds.
Yes, and just in case maybe you're watching and you don't know this, the government has already released the grant for schools. That not the money, there's a difference between the money that government is supposed to give schools to run and the money, the grants for bursaries in schools. So, but if in case you just don't know that fact, government has released that bursary money for pupils in schools. So if you have got a child who's at home or needs to pay a particular fee, I'm being told the odd word that we use is APU. There's pupils are required to pay something when they are reporting at school. But even for those, government is considering them under grants. And of course, if you've got a child who's in boarding school, equally, there's a grant that has been allocated to that. And government has already released those monies. All that is needed is who is it that is going to. So if you've got a child who's in that case, perhaps go to the nearest local authority, that is the council in your area, and present your request to the authorities under that the department who are looking at the CDF, and your child will be picked to be financed. They will be picked to be financed if they are in boarding. They will be picked to be financed if they are under APU.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will be picked to be financed. I'm being told they are paying about 1,000, above 1,000 million. Yes,
I haven't seen that yet.
Yes,
so
they are paying quite some good amount of money. It's above 1,000. Yeah, I think we did cover a story earlier this week where one of the councillors for
Kamwala, I think should be Kamwala Ward 5.
Yes, councillor was actually taking a pupil under APU to school, and he was mentioning that the child will be sponsored on the grant that government has
you know,
released.
These are some of the things that we want to see from our area councillors, from our area MPs. You know, we want to see them take responsibility. You know, they see a child in the community, in this particular community, not going to school. They take up the responsibility and just ensure that that pupil goes to school. You know, this is something that they say when you educate a child, you know, you educate a nation. So this is something that we want to see. Like we said, transparency and accountability. They say that without transparency and accountability, trust will be lacking between a government and those whom it governs. So what's your take with regards to transparency and accountability with regard to you as a citizen offering the necessary checks and balance to the current administration? So in case you are joining us this morning, this is the Camnet TV Breakfast Show, and Fridays we always look at the business aspect. So give us your contribution and your comment with regards to that. In case you're just joining us, in case you're watching us on Facebook, please do send us those messages. We will be able to read your messages.
Yeah, Miriam, that's of course true. And we are talking about the role of transparency and accountability for economic development. For economic development, what we need to see is that our country develops. And the only way that we are going to develop Zambia is if we hold accountable to the promises, to the resources that have been released. That 25.7 million, Miriam, for Constituency Development Fund is the resources meant for the people. And so the committees that have been put in charge to handle these resources have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable by, of course, you, the general public. Ask them, the 25.7 million kwacha, where has it gone? How has it been used? We are seeing no roads in our area being worked on. We are seeing no hospitals. We are seeing no clinics being built. Because honestly speaking, we can't have the whole year come to an end and you've not seen any development in your area when 25.7 million was released. How is that even?
Okay. We have a caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from. It's good to know that Kawa is watching. Please go ahead with your contribution, sir.
Those candidates for President and are they going to?
Can you repeat your question?
I said those who will be elected this year for the divorce that we nine, are they going to pay?
I can't get the question.
He's saying those who will be rewriting this year.
Oh, you mean, okay, yeah, for those, okay, thank you so much, I get your question.
Do you have any other comments?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
I said it's going to pay the fee.
Okay, I get you, sir. Thank you so much. Okay, so he's asking to say those who are rewriting this year, are they going to pay a fee? Yes, of course, sir. If you have a child who's rewriting their exams, they will be required to pay a particular fee. The one that has been scrapped off only requires those who are still in school. And if you are a grade 9 pupil, it means you're still in school, but you've got some subject that you are carrying. You have to pay for that. That's the one government said you have to pay a 15 kwacha per subject and 25 kwacha for entry fee. But if you are in a public school on full time, you don't have any subjects that you are rewriting. For those, you will be required to pay nothing. But if you are rewriting some subjects, you will be required to pay a particular fee. It's the same as those APU pupils. They'll also be required to pay a particular fee. But those ones can be funded under the grant that has been the grant that has been allocated in the CDF towards bursaries for those who are in schools. For those, they can access that. But if you are rewriting exams, you will be required to pay a particular fee. If you are in grade 9, you are rewriting those grade 9 subjects, you will be required to pay 15 kwacha per subject and 25 kwacha for entry fee. Yeah. So we just made that clarification. So the zero not paying anything for school fees applies to those who are in full-time, the full-time grade 1 to grade 12. And of course, you are writing exams, you're in an exam class, you're in grade 7, grade 9, or grade 12, and you are in a grant-headed institution. Like, for example, some mission schools have been identified under grant-headed institutions. And of course, public schools, the ones that are run by government. For those ones, you'll be required to pay nothing for your child with regards to examination. But if you're in a private school, your child is at a private institution, we've got some private boarding schools, we've got some private schools. For those ones are the ones who will be required to pay a particular fee. Like for senior secondary school, you will be required to pay 160. For school certificates, that's grade 12, you will be required to pay 440. And
for grade 7?
For grade 7s, you will be required to pay a 60 kwacha. So that one was announced by the Examination Council of Zambia yesterday, and the director, Mr. Michael Chilala, made that clear.
Yep. So right about now, we are going to we're going to take a short break, and we will be right back.
Do you have an extra car? Then make yourself extra money. We would like to put that car, yes, that car parked there, to good use to make you extra money on the side just through its service while keeping it safe and secure. Call 0765 02 3883 to register your vehicle with us today. Delpo Services. Service beyond satisfaction.
TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
The role of transparency and accountability for economic development is our topic of discussion today, and of course we will be joined by the guest who's going to help us dig deeper into this very shortly. But of course, in case you're just joining us, this is Business for Breakfast, which comes to your screen every Friday. We discuss nothing but the best in the business and what is happening in the business sector. So we did play a clip, as I earlier said, by Zaka, Zaka director, Mr. Sakala, who has alluded to the fact that we need a legislation in Zambia that is going to compel business owners to respond to the sentiments of what is happening on the market. And of course, we did play another clip from the Examination Council of Zambia where they were clarifying yesterday to say for those in public schools and grant-headed schools, they will not be required to pay anything for the examination fee, but for those in private schools and of course those who are rewriting their exams, they will be required to pay particular fees. So in case you have a child who's in grade 7, grade 9, grade 10, please ensure that you go to those schools and ask them if they've registered them to write exams. Because Mr. Chilala yesterday also did mention to the fact that out of about 1 million that they target, for above 1 million is the target. But what it is that now only about 220,000 pupils have been registered for the exam. So he was urging the schools and the parents to ensure that they register their children because there will be no extension. At first they used to give extension because people used to complain that, you know, why we have not done this is because we don't have the money to pay. But now government has removed that examination fee that you have to pay.
Leaving no excuses
for
the parents to make.
So what is the reason why pupils are not being registered for the exam? So 1 million and we have about 200. That's too little.
Okay, Prudence, let me just hold your thought. We have a caller. Good morning.
Good morning, madam.
You are through to Kamne TV Breakfast Show. Please tell us your name and where you're calling us from. Mr. Chilwa, please.
I'm Mr. Daniel Chilwa from Matero.
Please go ahead, sir.
My word is that it was a place that the examination is between quarter per subject. But why is it that in some schools they are charging 25 quarter per subject? And HCC, a center fee is about 100 quarter.
Okay,
where is that?
What?
Which school is that?
Those school there.
Okay, for what grades are they charging that? Pardon?
Grade 9.
For grade 9?
Yes.
All right, sir. Thank you so much. We'll try to visit the school. You said which school is that so that we try to understand why they are doing that?
Those primary school.
In which area? Give us the area. You don't have to mention the school. You can just give us the area and we'll know how we'll visit the area.
It is George Compound.
Pardon?
George Compound.
George Compound.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for coming through. So that is Mr. Chilwa calling from Matero. And he's saying some schools are charging 25 kwacha per subject. But the way it is 25 kwacha is the entry fee. We have mentioned the fact that for those who are writing their grade 9s, for every subject they are paying 15 kwacha for a subject. But they also need to subscribe to 25 kwacha entry fee. A 25 kwacha is the entry fee that they have to subscribe to. But per subject, it's 15 kwacha. Please, let me clarify that. For those in grade 9 who are writing those subjects, per subject is 15 kwacha. But you have to pay entry fee of 25 kwacha. So maybe if they said 25 kwacha, they meant the entry fee, which is 25 kwacha, of course. But for school certificates, for those in private schools, they are required to pay 440. For senior secondary school, that is grade 9, they are required to pay 160, and for grade 7s, they are required to pay 60 kwacha. This only applies to those in private schools and not in government schools or grant-headed institutions. So please take note, 25 kwacha entry fee, 15 kwacha per subject. That's for those in grade 9.
In case it's the other way around, Mr. Chilwa, we are assuring you that our newsroom will follow up with the case. Yeah, just to verify what is currently going on the ground.
Please don't worry. We will send our team, of course, to look into why these schools are charging the amount that you've just said, because that's not what government wants. Government is ensuring that they offer free education, which they promise the Zambian people. And of course, they have mentioned to say they are not going to allow anyone to frustrate government's effort in providing free education to the learners. So right about now, we are going to take a short break and we will be back. Stay tuned. Okay, before we go for a break, it seems we have a caller. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. That's why Shaboine.
Mkwai.
That's why Shaboine. Just even Mr. Labo is about 120 per subject.
For grade what?
Grade 12.
120 per subject.
Mkwai.
Whenever I see Z body than that for junior secondary, bakaradi pida 160, but it's just 160 kwapwa.
For junior secondary?
For junior secondary, it's 160. For 160, and for school certificates, it's 140. But it's only for those in private schools. But by GCE, yes, you are required to pay that amount of money. Like the free education does not apply to those who are on GCE.
Okay.
They are required to pay that fee. They've not. That's why we have some stakeholders who are also advocating that they should be given a chance to do it for free. But as it stands for GCE, you are required to pay a particular fee.
You
know, we have a lot of stakeholders who are engaging government to that. In fact, GCE free, so that people don't have to pay, so that it allows a lot of thank you so much for calling. So we will follow it up with the government to try to see if they can extend to also allow subject for free. That's why we are here to advocate for that.
Thank you very much.
All right, madam, thank you so much for calling. All right, thank you. That was a concern coming from one of the parents who's asking to say for GCE they are required to pay a particular fee. Yes, I forgot to mention, if you have a GCE pupil in who wrote grade 12 and they didn't do well, you are required to pay 160 for rewriting those subjects. Anyway, I wish you all the best if you are rewriting those subjects. If you didn't do well, please don't hesitate to go back to school. If you have to source for money, have to do a little bit of piecework to raise resources for you to rewrite those subjects. Please do that. It doesn't hurt, and there's nothing wrong. You can't.
At the end of the day, to be your benefit, you know, you need that qualification at the end of the day.
So all the best to those who are rewriting their subject. Please ensure that you register so that you are given another chance to redo those subjects. So right about now, we are going to take a short breather. We will be back so that we allow for our guest to sit. See you.
The Bible says, I knew you before I placed you in your mother's womb. Apples and bananas.
Working, waiting, this what you've been praying for.
Do you have an extra car? Then make yourself extra money. We would like to put that car, yes, that car parked there, to good use to make you extra money on the side just through its service while keeping it safe and secure. Call 0765 02 3883 to register your vehicle with us today. Delpo Services. Service beyond satisfaction.
The role of transparency and accountability for economic development is a topic of discussion. And of course, in studio, we have been joined by Mark Ngoma, who's the Programs Officer for Alliance for Accountability Advocacy Zambia, AAAZ. Mr. Ngoma, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you for according us this opportunity to come here.
Of course. So that is Mr. Mark Ngoma, Programs Officer for Alliance for Accountability Advocacy Zambia, AAAZ. And today we are discussing the role of transparency and accountability for economic development. Mr. Ngoma.
Yes, please.
Before we get to discuss the topic in detail, just tell us, who are you? Who's your target? What do you do? What are your focus areas? So who are you? Tell our viewers so that even as we get to interact, they know what Triple AZ is.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So we're a youth-led organization. We're a civil society registered under the Companies Act. So we are predominantly focused on empowering young people to effectively participate in the governance processes, in the democratic processes here in Zambia. So what we do is we provide capacity building to young people through different training activities. Some of these training activities involve understanding what social accountability is, understanding what our human rights are, understanding what the Constitution says about youth participation in such key decision-making spaces. But besides this, what we do also using our various social media platforms is we try so much to increase accessibility and availability of key information. Take, for instance, right now the CDF guidelines. We understand that majority of the population needs to understand what is their role in realizing what this CDF seeks to do. So this CDF is part of a larger umbrella under decentralization. So our focus for now, for instance, is ensuring that we have more young people participating in governance spaces, because young people constitute majority of the population in Zambia as we speak today. So it's paramount that their participation is enhanced. So this is what Triple AZ does basically. The Alliance for Accountability Advocates Zambia is there to ensure that young people are capacitated with skills, young people are capacitated with information as well to effectively participate in these processes. So this is on one hand. On the other hand, what we do is we lobby and advocate to different duty bearers, policy makers, and of course decision makers. This includes parliamentarians, for instance. We make different submissions that we collect from our members in all the 10 provinces. We make submissions that we collect from our affiliates who are working on the ground in some of the most isolated places and so forth. So we basically ensure that we work with the young people through training, through accessibility to information, whilst we lobby duty bearers and government stakeholders and advocate for the well-being of young people.
Thank you so much. I know you've mentioned a lot of things that we do. That's interesting to know that you are championing for the young people, for the young man, for the young woman out there to participate in governance issues. This brings me to this question. Currently, do we have young people who are, or for maybe lack of a better word, do we have enough representation from the young people in key decision-making positions?
Okay, that's a great question. So that is one of our biggest challenges that we've noticed. The fact that young people's participation in key decision-making spaces is very negligible. Take, for instance, in Zambia, a youth is considered anyone who's between the ages of 15 to 35, But if you look at the composition of parliament, for instance, there are only 5 members of parliament who are below the age of 35. And come next year and so forth, they won't be 35 anymore. So you'll find that youth participation or representation in parliament will be very negligible, to maybe 1 or 2. And this has been the case in Zambia for quite some time. It was very different in the First Republic, where majority of the parliamentarians were very young, but in this modern Zambia now, since MMD, for instance, the number of young people participating in these structures has reduced significantly. So this is where the key challenge is, because the legislative house, such as the National Assembly, is where reflections are made and laws are made upon what is needed on the ground. But if you have a scenario where you have a population that is predominantly young, but in the legislative house where these decisions are made, where this legislature is passed, there is no young people represented in there, you find that the laws and policies will not be reflective enough of the needs of the people. So to go back to your question, the participation of young people is very, very negligible. It changes a bit when you look at it in the lower structures, such as the local government structures, the ward development committees, the CDFC committees, that the spectrum changes a bit, but it's still not ideal. We need to see more young people. So this is one area as well where we're trying to push hard for legislation that will compel political parties, for instance, to adopt young people, to adopt women when they're having candidates. Why? Because they represent majority of the population, and the Constitution clearly states that participation should be a representation of the demographics in the country. And this is also ratified in the different declarations and conventions that Zambia has assigned to say there should be meaningful and fair participation of all demographics in key decision-making spaces. So to get back to your question, there isn't enough young people's participation in key decision-making spaces.
Can't we say that young people are shunning away from taking up certain duties or responsibilities?
Great question, great question. So indeed, last year we conducted a survey where we had more than 7,000 young people responding to it. We were asking them a simple question because we're trying to understand if they have any knowledge on governance or politics per se, if they have any knowledge, if they have any certain attitudes towards governance issues, any practices towards governance issues. And the results were quite not favorable, I should add. Over 70% of them said they've never participated in any community meeting whatsoever. So we all live in different communities, and these communities need to meet every now and then to discuss, hey, what do we see as the main challenge, for instance, among the young people in our community? Oh, this, and that. What can we possibly do? You cultivate such solutions, then you take them up to the different structures, such as the Ward Development Committee. So that even as they're planning for the CDF, they're looking at to say, okay, take for instance in Kalingalinga, there are so many young people, but they don't have enough recreational facilities, hence why they have found themselves in vices. So it's such issues that we're trying to address. So with regards to young people's interest as well, we are liable as well as young people. We are very liable in the sense that we do not take keen interest, we're not proactive enough when it comes to issues of governance. One challenge that we noticed is that when we interrogated further to find out why was this the case, why weren't young people participating in such structures, their response was, we do not even know when these meetings take place. There's no one who comes around in a community to say, hey, there'll be a meeting on such a date, at such a venue, at such a time, please come through. That is non-existent. So if you've been hearing the rhetoric, for instance, from different line ministries, including...
Okay, let me just hold your thought. We have a caller. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
I'm okay, sir. Can you kindly tell us your name and where you're calling us from?
I am calling today. I'm Brian.
Yeah, Brian who?
Brian Bwaya.
Mr. Bwaya, you're calling us from where?
Kitwe.
It's good to know Kitwe is tuned in. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, there is a which is just nice. It does a 350.
We can't get you, sir. Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, I said the private which is just 349.
Okay, you are breaking, we can't get you, but I know you are talking to the fact that there is a school that is still charging high. Is that so?
Yeah.
For the examinations? Hello?
Yeah. There is a private school that is 350 for example, grade 9.
I think it's trying to say there's a school, a private school, which charges 350 for a grade 9 examination fees.
Oh, there's a private school that is charging high for grade 9 examination fees.
Yeah, and the grade 2 is just
okay, that's in Kitwe.
Yeah, Kitwe.
Okay, what area is that?
It's Kawama.
In Kawama, Kitwe.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Bwaya, thank you so much for calling. So we are going to engage the ministry. We are going to forward these questions to the ministries with regards to how they are supposed to engage these private schools to also comply with what government is saying.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for letting us know. All right. Of course, earlier in the program, we were discussing, we did play a clip from the Examination Council of Zambia director, Mr. Michael Chilala, who yesterday was speaking to how the examination fees are supposed to be handled. He did give the figures to how much grade 9, grade 10, and grade 9, grade 9, grade 7, grade 9, and grade 12 pupils are supposed to pay in private schools. For those in government, they've been exempted under the grants that have been given. But for those in private schools, they're supposed to pay a particular fee. But our caller has just alluded to the fact that some private schools are charging more than what was being given by the Examination Council of Zambia. So if you're a private school and you are doing that, please comply to what the directive has been from the government. We don't want to entangle any private schools in such scandals. So please ensure that you just do the right thing. So I think that's where that call is coming from. So the role of transparency and accountability for economic development is a topic that we are discussing. And of course, in studio, we have been joined by Mr. Mark Ngoma, who's the Programs Officer for Alliance for Accountability Advocates Zambia AAAZ, which is a youth-led organization that deals in advocating for youth participation in governance issues. And before that call, of course, Mr. Ngoma was speaking to the current status with regards to the participation of the youths in these key positions. And of course, Mr. Ngoma, before we did cut you, you were speaking to the CDF. Yes. But what I understand is the fact that most businesses, we know that CDF will also go towards supporting businesses. Okay. And most businesses, if you go in these compounds and stuff like that, they are being run by energetic youths. So how is it that these youths can benefit, or how are the youth supposed to benefit from this constituency development fund?
Okay, great question. So the Constituency Development Fund, the CDF, is an approach in decentralization. This is called fiscal decentralization. So if just to dive back in history a bit, decentralization in Zambia has been taking place since 1974. We've been trying to decentralize. So there are different forms of decentralization, but fiscal is one of the cardinal ones because it empowers the local government structures to have resources for projects, to have resources to fund businesses, fund education, health, and so forth. So speaking to your question with regards to how can a young person, for instance, who runs a business benefit from the Constituency Development Fund? So according to the guidelines, we have a threshold where there will be youth empowerment and women empowerment. So under youth empowerment, it's going to focus on everyone who's between the ages of 15, or between the ages of 19 and 35. Yeah. So there are two forms under the youth empowerment. There's one that is a grant, and there's one that is more of a loan. So the main difference here is there are issues where, for instance, there's a young person in this community, and this person is very innovative. They've made a prototype of a product, or they've made a prototype of a service for the community, but they do not have resources to take this to scale or to test this. This is now where the grant comes in. This is where the grant comes in, so that the constituency is helping the young person in the community with a special talent, with a special innovation. You know, so then the idea here is you do not necessarily have to start paying back, because we're trying out something that you've invented all together, basically trying to support startups. Then there's the other issue now where there are loans involved. There's the issue of the loan, and in accordance with the loan is you receive a certain sum of money, you're expected to pay this sum of money at a particular point, but also an accumulating interest on this money that you've gotten. So this is now where, for instance, a young person with a business in the community now comes in. They've got a running business and they want to expand their business to say, you know what, I've been able to save this market here, but I need another shop 1 kilometer down the road because there's also people who require my services there. Can I now access this youth empowerment loan to ensure that I can expand my business? And once my business is in expansion process, I'll be able to pay back the loaned amount and the required interest. So there's these two distinctions that need to be demystified, basically, to young people, for young people to understand what are some of the ways you can access these resources. It should be mentioned that with resources that are intended to not have a payback period, these resources have to ensure that there's a community benefit at the end of the day. There should be a community benefit. It can't just benefit the person who's in the inventor, no, but everyone else who's around in that community. So this has to be understood critically. Another way we can think about this is take for instance, we're trying to build some feeder roads in our community, and there are young people who, for instance, provide aggregates for building the feeder roads. Could be the quarry, it could be ABCD, and so forth. Then they want to expand their ability to participate in this process. They'll be able to access a loan to say, we'll be contracting to build these feeder roads, because that way as well, you're ensuring that the constituency development fund that reaches constituency X is used within constituency X. You don't need to go to constituency Y to bring someone to bring the sand for these feeder roads. Rather, ensure that the people within that community, within that constituency, are the ones providing the input, are the ones providing the necessary services so that the resources can mushroom within the given constituency. Yeah.
Okay, that is interesting. Mr. Ngoma has mentioned something interesting here, and that was highlighted in the guidelines for how the CDF is supposed to be used, and that is to the fact that if you have an invention, you will be supported by the government. This reminds me of, I think we did see a story that was on social media some few weeks ago, where a person, a boy in the village invented electricity using heat that was coming from the toilet?
Yeah, exactly.
That's an innovation. What is stopping you, the young people out there, from inventing something? We now have money that has been allocated. If you have an invention, your own invention, that is solving a problem in society, government is going to give you resources to upscale, and that one is a grant.
Yeah.
But if you have a business that you're running because it's personally owned by you, you will be given a loan.
Indeed.
I think, yeah, we should be encouraging a lot of young people there to start thinking outside the box, to start thinking of providing solutions. We want to see someone on an internet
international
facility.
Yeah, exactly. Because of something that they conceived within them. And the funny thing is, we take this for granted, but nearly each and every one of us has got this innate capability. This is something that allows us to do something unique. So the idea here is, if you've got a unique idea that is feeding into community, feeding into a society, at least now you have a platform to start from. And the line ministries such as the Ministry of Medium and Small Scale Enterprises, Ministry of Technology and Science will also come in to support this. So it's really up to us now. The onus is on us. But one thing that we've noticed from our engagements is that this information has not been mainstreamed. This information has not been mainstreamed. The young person in the community does not really understand this. The woman in the community does not even understand this. And to make matters worse, there are those in local governance structures such as the ward development committees who barely have sufficient understanding of how they can participate in this process, how they can ensure that the community participates in this process. So this is where we're also coming in. As we speak right now, we're engaging different ward development committee members in Mandevu, in Chawama, in Mpulungu, in Sulawesi, in Mufrila. We're helping them, trying to understand what is your mandated role. What is your mandated role in this decentralization process and in the CDF administration process. Do you understand, for instance, the local government acts that give you the mandate as a ward development committee member? Do you understand the guidelines in the ward development committee? Do you understand the Constituency Development Fund Act? Because there's an act of parliament that was created to ensure that there's Constituency Development Fund. But you find that we, as well as citizens, we do not have interest to read some of these things.
Exactly. I think reading is a problem for us.
It's such an engagement where I'm trying to find out if someone has read the act before or the guidelines. I'll ask them this question to say, do you know any Bible verse by heart? And majority of us will proudly say, yes, I know Jesus wept. I know God so made, so many people come up with the verses they know. But if you ask a Zambian today, how many lines from the Constitution do you know? How many lines from the Acts do you know that govern you on a daily basis? That help you understand what is your role in our society and what is my government's role in my society? What is my duty bearer's role in my society? We do not take interest in reading this. So this is now a challenge to us CSOs and to the media fraternity. We need to mainstream this information.
Of course.
We need to help change the reading culture to start with. If you go on Facebook today, if you were to post what you're going to have for lunch, you'll see the likes, you get the comments.
Exactly.
But as soon as you post something on decentralization, on CDF, the likes and comments will not be
Will
the same.
reduce, will reduce.
So there's that attitude as well. Do we have the attitude as well to be proactive and want to take a proactive step in this? So the challenge is on us as well, the young people, on the media fraternity, mainstream this information. We, the youth as well, need to be proactive.
This is very interesting. Of course, we have the Constituency Development 25.7 million. That can change your life. But I know a lot of women, there is even a portion that has been allocated to women. Don't even know that there is that money. They don't even know how to benefit from it. Exactly. This is where Mr. Ngoma now is saying we need this information out there. But in case you're just joining us, watching this program, if you are a woman in your community, just know that from that 25.7 million, you have a share, and it has to be for grab. But we have a caller, of course. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much, sir, for tuning in to Kamne TV. Tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
My name is Ernest, calling from Kitwe.
It's good to know Kitwe is watching this morning.
Yes, please.
Please go ahead with your contribution. Hello? Hello? Okay, looks like we lost that caller. Please do call us back. We were unable to get you, but it's good to know Kitwe is tuning in. This is the second guest that is calling us from Kitwe this morning, which means Kitwe is watching. So please
We're happy.
Please do call. We are going to pick up that call, of course. So our topic of discussion, the role of transparency and accountability for economic development. In studio, we have Mr. Mark Ngoma, who's the programs officer for Alliance for Accountability Advocates Zambia, AAAZ. And of course, before that caller, we were speaking to the fact that we have a lot of information which is on paper, which people are not reading. That's why people don't even have access to these resources. We did mention the fact that women have got a particular portion in the Constituency Development Fund. But as a woman, do you know what you need to do in order for you to access those resources? These are the questions that we have to start answering in order for you to benefit from this Constituency Development Fund. This takes me to my next question, Mr. Ngoma. So we all know that in order for you to hold the government accountable, you need to be knowledgeable of well, the things that are out there. So how is it that we as citizens and organizations can play in ensuring that we hold these in office accountable?
Thank you for that question. Okay, so, you know, governance is about everyone. Governance is not about a select few, particularly in a democratic state like Zambia. Governance is basically for everyone.
Okay, let me just hold your thought. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you once again.
Please, can you tell us your name and where you're calling us from?
From Kitwe, my name is Edward.
Okay, please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, please. Can the gentleman please clarify on the aged ones, how are they going to benefit on the CDF? You're just talking about youth, but not the elderly.
Okay.
How are they going to benefit on this one? Let's say from 35 upwards. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your call. Maybe before we can go to this next question, you can finish your thoughts where we were talking about how citizens can hold accountable those in office.
Okay, great. So let me start with the accountability aspect. So in terms of accountability, there are various forms of accountability. There are three particularly. There's what is known as vertical accountability, then there's horizontal accountability, and there's a hybrid that mixes the vertical and horizontal. So in the vertical, I'm not sure if we're aware of the Public Accounts Committee. So the Public Accounts Committee, for instance, is one of the vertical structures of accountability where it's asking questions to say the Auditor General's report has shown some irregularities on the expenditure of public resources. So we're going to call the different controlling officers, the different permanent secretaries and so forth to come and answer why they have these irregularities. So that is one form of accountability. You're asking the person who was entrusted with resources to do a certain task to provide a certain service to say why is there a variance. Then on the other hand, there's a horizontal accountability. So this is where you and I come in. This is where the entire citizenry, the media, the civil societies, the young person in a community comes in. So if you look at, for instance, in the Constituency Development Fund guidelines for 2022, there's an aspect that is labeled accountability. And in under accountability, there are various structures that have been created to ensure there's accountability. But I'll drive us to one key important one that says local community participation. So as a community, our role is to ensure that we participate in the planning, we participate in the implementation, we participate in the monitoring, and in the evaluation of any resources that have been utilized under the CDF ban. We all have a role to play. So as a community, for instance, how can you participate? The guidelines from the CDF and the Local Government Act give you the mandate to come up with a committee, basically. If, for instance, there's Community X, in this Community X, there's Mrs. Banda, there's Miss Mtale, there's ABCD. They've got different expertise. Maybe one of them has got expertise in finance, one of them has got expertise in construction, one of them has got expertise in monitoring and evaluation. You form a committee. It's all totally under the law. You form a committee. This committee is going to oversee what is happening. If we agreed that in our community we're building a classroom block, the one with the finance expertise will come in to look at the finances that have been set down for this. The one with the construction expertise will come in to see, okay, this bill of quantity, does it make sense to have so many number of blocks, so many cement bags, so many roofing sheets to build this classroom block? Because they're using the expertise, yeah? Then also the person with M&D comes in to ensure, okay, is this project going up in accordance with time? So this is one way we can hold our duty bearers accountable. This is one way we can ensure that there's prudent management of our resources. We need to know. If we don't know, for instance, how much has been released or when it's being released, it will be hard to hold anyone to account. So number one, we need to have access to information. Number two, we need to come together as communities. And this is where ZZZ is coming in as well. We're trying by all means to build at least some communities that have this sense of awareness. Yeah. Then coming to the caller's question with regards to how can the aged benefit from this.
Exactly.
So for instance, under the women empowerment, the guidelines are saying it's only for women who are above the age of 35. 35 and going up. Those are the only ones who can benefit from the women empowerment. Yeah. So that is one of the criteria.
Women out there.
So all those marketeers, they want to expand, they want to, maybe they want to ensure that the area of business is conducive, more healthy and so forth. They can come up with cooperatives to say, you know what, we as marketeers, for instance, of Mtendera Market A, we want to collectively have shelter where we're doing our business from. So that whether it's raining or the sunshine, we can still conduct business. When there's cholera, we can reduce the chances of cholera building up here. That's one way. The other way, there's a 60% that is focused on community development under the CDF. The 60% of the resources are for community development. So these are now the resources where the aged in the communities can benefit from. The young person, for instance, if there's a young person to say, you know what, I think what we need here is a home for elderly people. Draft that proposal. Draft that proposal to say we want to construct a home in our community because, for instance, there are more aged people than younger people. They need to be taken care of. We need to construct a home. So this will now become a business in itself. So the resources will be made available through the CDF, but yet who is going to be benefiting? Number one, the proprietor of the business, and number two, the elderly who will be able to be housed in these structures. So there are various ways where everyone is going to benefit, but the key challenge is, are we the citizens up to take up this task? We need to be able to take up this task because it won't happen without deliberate activities or interventions. We the citizens need to be proactive, we the citizens need to stand up, we the citizens need to band together as well, come up with ideas. I know, for instance, a lot of line ministers are calling for create cooperatives. But what also should be understood is, does the cooperative society, for instance, itself, the registrar, are they capacitated to handle all these applications that are going to come in as people trying to come up with cooperatives? And additionally, does a young person also understand what a cooperative is, how a cooperative functions, who can be part of the cooperative? So there's a lot of work to be done in terms of information. Let's not rush to the fact that there's money available. Let's first understand, how is this money available? how can this money be accessed and how can we optimize on this money before we really want to, you know, start grabbing on it. Let's come up with our actual plans on how we're going to maximize on these resources.
Okay. When we talk about resources, you know, we shouldn't forget about the issue of mismanagement of funds.
Exactly.
How do you think, in terms of holding accountability, how do you think we can ensure that in the near future we don't have such kind of stories or scandals of mismanagement of funds?
Yeah, in addition to that, you have mentioned to the fact that there is this fund that has been set aside for the youths. We have these funds that have been set aside for the women above 35. But a caller wanted to know, for the men, what is it that we have for them in that CDF?
Okay, great. Okay, so for the men, it's basically the aspect of the 60%. It's in the 60%. So if there are men, for instance, who already have established business, for instance, they are into block making, but their block making is basically manual. They do not have the necessary machinery. Then this constituency is identifying that we need to build different infrastructures and we need blocks for this. Let's empower the same block maker in our constituency. It could be someone above 35. They have this company. Empower them, then I'll give them access to a loan to get the machine that will help them create these blocks quicker and more efficiently. So there, then the men can now come in as well. There, the men can now come in and say, I have a business that I'm running. I need capital to expand. I need capital to do ABCD and so forth. So long as I'm following the specified guidelines to say, when I get this capital, I'm supposed to pay it back on this date. This is the interest. That's how men can access the resources as well. So men haven't been excluded per se.
They need a functioning business.
Exactly. You know, you need a functioning business. But mainly what we're looking at as well is the fact that majority of our constituencies have a young person. Statistically speaking, today in Zambia, if you were to go outside and count 10 people, 7 will be below the age of 35, statistically speaking in Zambia. So this is a deliberate policy that is necessary given the fact that our demography is looking like this, or our characteristics of our demography are like this. We've got a lot of young people. Yeah. Your other question was?
Mismanagement.
Mismanagement, indeed. So in the monitoring aspect, we the community have a role to play. The media has a role to play. The CSOs in the communities have a role to play. We need to monitor how the resources are being utilized. If we do not monitor, we will end up having the same mismanagement issues. But before we start monitoring, we should know as well how much has been set aside for this. So we need to, like I mentioned, we need to participate in the planning, in the implementation, in the monitoring, and in the evaluation of projects. And the guidelines have given leeway for communities to participate in these processes. So it's up to us as community members also to take a proactive approach in wanting to go to the local government office, wanting to go to the constituency office, wanting to go to our town clerks or our council secretaries to access this information, because it's also their mandate to ensure that there's community participation in all these processes. That's the only way we're going to see results being yielded from this 25.7 million. Because no matter how much money you have, if there's no plan of procedure on how you're going to use it, how you're going to monitor its effects, you will end up having a lot of challenges at the end of the day, where you might see a reversal of the constituency development fund going back to central government. And we don't want to see that.
And we used to see this in the past, where 1.6 million that was being allocated to these constituencies is not used, and it goes back to government coffers.
It's not exhausted. So these are some of the major issues regarding the CDF, regarding the decentralization process. One key element, information, the media. The media has a critical role to play with information dissemination. You've got so many people who follow your channels, your platforms, speak on decentralization, speak on CDF every other hour. You know, I know some in the media fraternity who say, no, those are not the stories that attract the audience. You want something controversial.
No, we do a report on that.
You just have to be more deliberate about the CDF aspect, because it's likely to change the lives of all of us if we use it prudently. But we can only use it prudently if we have enough information.
Your concluding remarks as we close the program.
Thank you. So concluding remarks. The Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, including other line ministries, should deliberately capacitate local governance structures. The CDFC committee, the Constituency Development Fund Committee. So for instance, this committee has a member from the community, a member from this structure, and so forth. These people need to be capacitated. It could be capacitating in finance, in budget tracking, in social accountability, in community engagement. Why? Because these are some of the elements that will help them maximize in their positions. The same can be said for the Ward Development Committee members. We've engaged some, and we've noticed that there are a lot of knowledge gaps where they do not even know how to start. How will we do this? How will we do this? They do not understand that. So it's important that the line ministry, particularly the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, have deliberate policies, compel councils, compel their respective MPs to bring all these structures into some form of training and orientation that will help them understand what is going on and their role to play in this. Because without that understanding, we will see a scenario that is not favorable, that no one wants to see, even though a lot of resources have been brought down. The same can be said for the structures themselves, such as the local government. Do they have the necessary infrastructure, technology? Do they have computers, for instance, that will have the necessary software to ensure that 25.7 million is used prudently? Do they have the human resource capable of handling these resources? Do they have the necessary human resource to do enough community engagement? So these are some of the key areas that perhaps might have been neglected, but are cardinal. Strengthen the capacity. Strengthen the capacity of the council structures, strengthen the capacity of the local government structures, strengthen the capacity of the community members as well through information dissemination, sensitization, raising awareness, and educating on how they can benefit from the Constituency Development Fund. Thank you.
The role of transparency and accountability for economic development was a topic of discussion today, and we were joined by Mark Ngoma, who's the Programs Officer for Alliance for Accountability Advocates Zambia, AAAZ, and we were discussing the topic that I've just mentioned. One interesting aspect, even as we close this program, is the fact that the guidelines for the use of the Constituency Development Fund, which has been moved from 1.6 million to 25.7 million, has been released by the local government. Have you gone through the document? How is it that it can benefit you? How is it that you can be part of that? In Zambia, we need to develop a culture where we read through some of the things that are put on paper, of course, by our government. So those guidelines have been given, and of course, Mr. Ngoma has just mentioned a little bit of it. We could have loved to dive even more into that, but time, unfortunately, could not allow us. Maybe one day we will call back Mr. Ngoma on the program so that he can explain to some of that. But it's of course explained how the youths can participate, what is it that has been said for the youths. For those who are innovative, if you are a young person between 19 and 35 years old, and you have invented an innovation, you can be given a grant. A grant is some money that you are given for free to scale up your business. All that is in the Constituency Development Guidelines. So please, let's take time, Miriam, to go through some of these documents.
For our own benefit.
Yes.
Even as we try to hold government accountable for certain things, it's very important that we go through this information and know exactly what is under those guidelines. So for me and Prudence Chota and the rest of our production team is bye-bye and God bless.